I felt like for weeks we did not have anything to shoot. And now all of a sudden I feel like I'm going to be shooting something every day for the next 3 months. Because releases are coming out fast and furious. And we have the new Pat McGrath quads, which if you followed my stories, you know are absolutely gorgeous. I'm still waiting on 2. So they're going to come in, I think, tomorrow or Wednesday. And then I will just do all 4 of those at the same time. We've got the new Louis Vuitton La Bouteille monogram collection. We have the new Chanel. But before we go any further, I thought I'd give a little shout out to an indie brand I really love, and that's Adept Cosmetics. So today we're going to take a look at the Adept Cosmetics Back to the 80s palette. We're also going to try out, and I've already tried it for a few days, the Westman Atelier foundation, liquid foundation. So if taking a look at that and some other products sounds good to you, then please consider liking, subscribing, following along, shopping my links, all that goodness. Unsolicited iVice, Instagram, and YouTube. So Westman Atelier in the past has had a liquid like tint foundation. I didn't really like that one. It was a little oily for me. They also had a stick foundation, which I thought was pretty good, but I could never find the perfect match for me. And I still didn't like it as much as, say, like the Tom Ford or the Dior. But they have now come out with the Westman Atelier Supreme Biocomplex Liquid Foundation. And I have mine in this shade Atelier L2. It comes in this beautiful frosted glass bottle with a cap, with the gold on the bottom, with Westman Atelier. I mean, it's top notch. And I will tell you that I have tried this now for 3 days. And it, I think, is the foundation of 2026, which isn't saying a ton because a lot of foundations came out in 2025. There haven't been a ton in 2026. But this one, if it stays the way it has been, is going to rise in my top probably 3 or 4 foundations. It's just beautiful. So we're going to take a look at that today. Now, it's a natural foundation. It's not particularly glowy. It's not matte. It's not particularly blurring. It has some blurring, but it's more like your skin, but better. And the thing that I really love about it is that it really does look like your skin. If you get the right color, and it does oxidize just a little bit, but if you get the right color, you cannot clock it. So I do want a little bit of glow, so I just grabbed a glowy primer, Danessa Myricks, the YSL. There's a number of them that could work. I grabbed this one from One Size, the Secure the Glow primer, and I'm just going to put a thin layer of that on because I do like a little bit of glow. If you didn't want to use a primer, I don't know that you necessarily would have to. I found this to be a really forgiving foundation. Or if you wanted a little glow, you could mix in like the Westman Atelier liquid highlighter drops. I think that they would work really well with this foundation. Now, like I said, I have mine in the shade L2, Atelier L2 Light 2, which is a light neutral. I also have the Westman Atelier that came out, maybe a year and a half ago, concealer, which I really love. And I have mine in the shade Atelier L2. So I'm going to put on a little bit of the concealer first, just to cover up a little under my eyes and some of the dark spots on my face, which I do have a little bit right now, a little bit of a breakout. I think maybe the weather, it's just been so damn hot. But I really do love the Westman Atelier concealer as well. So I'm going to grab my BO5 from Refer and just work this in. This is lighter than the foundation, but they are both called L2, so I'm not really sure what that's about. I think it's also that I did notice with the foundation, it oxidized just a little bit, and it oxidized to a color that looked really good on me. Westman Atelier is a pricey natural brand, but for the most part, most of their products I really do like. They have some really beautiful products. Their bronzer, their contour, their biscuit contour, their liners, their lip liners, their lip products, their like cream highlighters like Peau de Pêche, and their blushes. I mean, they have really beautiful products. So now that I've just put some concealer on, let's go in with the Westman Atelier foundation. And I've noticed that it pumps a very small amount. So you may think you have to have 3 pumps, but it's really like a pump and a half. So I'm going to go in with 2 at first. And it's thin, serum-y, but it's not overly thin. So I'm going to grab some and just place it on. And it just has a beautiful finish, and when it dries down, it just it has a it's probably one of the most skin-like foundations I've ever tried. It's kind of like the Pat McGrath as far as that skin-like quality, but this one's not as thin as like the Pat McGrath, and this one probably has a little bit more coverage right off the bat. This one's kind of a medium coverage right off the bat. And you could build it up, though I don't know that you necessarily want to. I think it's a really beautiful amount of coverage. And you can see it's just melting into the skin. Really beautiful. It doesn't take much work at all. I normally prime my eyes a little bit, but I think since I've got just a tiny bit left, I'm just going to quickly just kind of brush over them just to even them out a little bit. And we'll use like the Pat McGrath Intensify wand because Adept Cosmetics palettes, very shiny, but they can often have some fallout. So you want to use like a glitter glue or like a Pat McGrath Intensify wand. But look on the back of my hand. What's left of that foundation has just seeped in. It's unclockable. Really beautiful, natural finish. Of course, that primer gives a little bit of glow, but it's really beautiful. It doesn't look dry. It just looks like your skin, but better. So I'm going to go ahead and go off camera and grab my Intensify wand, put on some contour and a little bronzer, and then we'll come back and we'll take a deep dive into the Back to the 80s palette by... Okay, so I went in with my Westman Atelier Contour Stick in Biscuit and my Westman Atelier Bronzing Duo in Soleil Parfait 1. And I'm going to leave my highlighter and blush until we see how the eye looks turn out. But I did grab a couple of other Westman Atelier blushes and highlighters so we could, you know, stick with a base at least of Westman Atelier today. So the Back to the 80s palette from Adept, if you've not tried Adept, and I think I've got most all of their palettes now, they are a really beautiful indie brand. They come with the little holes in the back, kind of like Natasha Denona, so you can swap them out. I wonder if they're the same. No, they're more of a square. I was going to say, I wonder if they're the same size as Natasha Denona. But Adept does the most beautiful shimmers and metallics, and their matte game has really increased in the last few years, really since they switched to this kind of hard plastic packaging or acrylic packaging. It's heavy. This is the Back to the 80s palette. I don't know if I want to go back to the 80s, but it is a beautiful, bold, bright color story. And I can post the swatches, but I think that people seem to like when I actually show you. So what I'm going to do is show you a couple at a time. So the first one we have here is a matte, and it's called Acid Wash, and it's a gray blue. Beautiful color. Then we have Mall Princess, which is a pink to blue kind of duochrome. And finally we have Leg Warmer, which is kind of a hot pink metallic. So let me show you these on the back of my hand. And like that Mall Princess is a bit of a chunkier finish. And I'll just go ahead and pull the last two on this row, which are Members Only, which is just a metallic, a duochrome metallic, but really smooth. Their metallics are where they really shine. And then Shoulder Pads, which is kind of a neutral gray. So I'm going to put these 5 out and show you those. So on the bottom we have Acid Wash, the matte. Then we have Mall Princess, which is kind of a topper. Then we have Leg Warmers, also kind of a topper. Then we have Members Only, which is that blue to purple duochrome metallic. And finally we have Shoulder Pads, which is that really kind of cool gray color up at the top. So that is the first row. So let's take those off so I can show you the next row. This is a pretty cool palette. There's a little bit of warmth, but it is pretty cool. And definitely those kind of neon 80s colors. Maybe they'll do a 90s at some point. Maybe that one will be more grungy. So the first shade we have here is called Viewmaster, and it is a duochrome metallic. Really gorgeous, really intense, hot pink to like key lime green. Then we have Purple Rain, which is kind of a fuchsia to black to green metallic duochrome. Then we have Waterbed, which is a very vibrant kind of indigo. So let me show you those. That Viewmaster color is really cool. And then the last two on this row are Teased Hair, which is kind of a black. I guess it's a black, but it's got a little bit of warmth in it. It's not a straight black. And Phone Book, which it looks to me like it's kind of one of those kind of toppery shades in a silver. Okay, so let me show you this. On the bottom, we have Viewmaster, that really intense pink to green shift. Then we have Purple Rain, the purple to black. Waterbed, which is the matte in that indigo, really bold. Teased Hair, which is that kind of black, but with a little bit of softness in it. And then Phone Book, which is this kind of duochromy, silvery green kind of topper shade up at the top. Okay, so that's 2 rows down. Let's look at this last one. That black is going to be a pain to get off my hand. It's very pigmented. No one can ever say that Adept is not pigmented. Okay, so we have Collect Call, which is a really bold acid yellow green. Commodore 64, which is a green to silver. You can see on the top it's green, it goes into silver, it's got blue and yellow in there. Really interesting. And then Payphone, which is a fuchsia kind of matte. That Commodore color is really intense. You'll see in a second. And then the last two are, we have Arcade Fever, which appears to be another kind of purpley blue metallic shade. Real liquidy. That's where they really, make their name. And then we have Slap Bracelets. Those were more 90s, weren't they? But it's a hot fuchsia. So on the bottom we have Collect Call, a matte, then Commodore 64, that really liquid metallic duochrome, Payphone, another matte, then Acid Fever, that purpley metallic, and then Slap Bracelets, that hot fuchsia pink. So let me get these off and then we'll come back and we'll get them on the eye. So that took a bit to get off my hand. These are not for the faint of heart. You could, with shoulder pads, Mall Princess, phone book, you could get a lighter look, but I don't know that that's necessarily the point of this palette. So let's bring you in, shall we? And I'm going to run a little bit of, let's do shoulder pads, this kind of gray color. And I'm on a Refer 14. If you like softer looks, Adept has a lot of softer palettes too. But they also just have a ton of these really bold, colorful palettes. It's a pretty color. Okay, what do we want to do? I think we're going to have to go in with Collect Call. This neon, lime green, acid yellow kind of color. And I'm going to kind of work that into the gray. I can imagine if you had a darker skin tone, that could be really beautiful. I think with Adept, you know, their palettes show up on a lot of skin tones because they are so bold. So since I've already done my base, I'm going to use a Pat McGrath Intensify wand because I don't want any fallout. Maybe I should get an eye lift. Okay, I'm going to go in with Commodore 64, which is that crazy blue-green with a little bit of silver there at the bottom. And I'm just going to place this on the bulk of the lid. So that is a bold color. And I want to darken it up a little bit, so I'm going to go in with just a little bit of this teased hair color. And the mix of that with that yellow actually kind of works in an ugly, pretty kind of way. But I barely tipped my brush into there. Okay, then for the inner third, let's see. Let's go in with Phone Book. I'm going to grab a Refer 21 for this, although I think this is probably going to require me to use my finger. Yeah, it's just not picking up. This kind of texture really requires a finger. It's kind of more of a topper. It's got some big chunks in it. So you'll want to kind of work them into your finger if you're worried about fallout. And kind of put a little of that over the green. That's a bold look. Okay, let me grab, what do I have as far as a little pencil? Because I certainly don't want black running down my face. I'm going to grab a little of that teased hair on a Refer 3. It would be no problem at all for me to do a 5 looks 1 palette with this. Get a blue look, a pink look, a purple look, this kind of acid green look that we have here. I'm just running a little bit across the lash line. And then for the inner corner, I'm going to grab some of Mall Princess on my pinky finger. So we'll come back and put a liner and lashes with that in a second, because Adept was kind enough to send some of their mascara. I've never tried Adept's mascara. I didn't even know they had a mascara. And this is in, I think it's just in black. So why not? We'll try it with it. So for this other look, I really want to try that Viewmaster color. So what I'm going to do is go in with, let's go in with shoulder pads again, that lightish gray color, just for a base up here to blend. It's a nice brightening color. Okay, then I'm going to go in with slap bracelets, which is that hot neon fuchsia color. I'm going to pack that on the outer corner. Whoa. Their mats have really upped their game in the past few years. They used to be a little patchy, but they are quite smooth now. They're powdery, but not in a bad way. That gray actually did work as a nice color there to help blend it out. Okay, let me grab my Intensify wand. Because I've been dying to try this Viewmaster, this lime green to hot, hot pink. I mean, that's crazy. That is bold. It's like liquid. I'll grab a little bit more of that slap bracelets color, just to work in that corner a little bit. The edge is not harsh. I get the 90s vibe there for sure. Okay, and then, we can go in with Leg Warmers, which is this pink kind of topper shade. Also pretty bold on the inner third. That's got some blue in it. I'm actually going to just work that into the corner. That works out really nicely. And then I'll take a little of that Mall Princess again, that white shade, just to lighten up the immediate corner there. And I'm going to put a little of that under the brow bone as well. And I can do the same thing with Foam Book on this side. Put a little of that under the brow. Okay, now I can go in with a little of that pink shade again, that slap bracelets, just along the bottom here. Very nice. Those are not for the demure. So, and we only used about half the shades in here. We didn't even touch the dark purples or the blues. So that's the one thing about Adept. You can get a lot of looks out of one of their palettes. So I think for both of these, they need like a purple or a black liner. Okay, so I just put Pat McGrath black in my waterline in both, because you kind of have to just go with black or a real bold color. And let me curl these just a little bit with my Rephr curler. And we'll try their mascara. Like I said, I didn't even know they had a mascara, so I'm excited to try it. And they included it with this, I guess, as a kind of gift with purchase. So does it have a name? Adept Cosmetics Mascara 2 Volumizing Mascara in black. So maybe they have a different kind as well. It comes in a nice black package. It's embossed with Adept Cosmetics on it. Nothing too fancy. Kind of a standard wand. Yeah, it's a nice dramatic mascara. Like I said, this one's for volume. So I'm assuming with this kind of brush, you could just keep building and get a really intense look. The irony, of course, is this kind of makeup has nothing to do with Westman Atelier, which is all about clean beauty and simplicity. But that's the way it goes with releases. Okay. I don't know if I see a ton of volume there, but it certainly works. It's a nice product. So let me zoom you out. No, out. Wow, those are some bold looks. Okay. So I went ahead to go back to our Westman Atelier and grabbed the Westman Atelier Blush Duo in Fizz Jam, which is a really bold color compact for them. But when you're going to do looks this intense, you might as well go all in. So let me go in with a little bit of Fizz on this side over here. No, maybe this side over here. And these are a nice formula. They're very similar to the blush formula, although these are more of a powder. That Soleil blush is definitely more of a cream. Going full 90s here. And on the other side, I'll grab a little bit of the one called Jam. Okay, that is a darker color. Jeez Louise. Yeah, that's an intense color. So less is more on Jam. Let me grab my foundation brush, which actually works that in pretty well with just that little bit of foundation that was left on the brush. You see how that did a nice job there. Finally, I have one of the Westman Atelier liquid foundations. They also have, well, no, they have liquid. These are the creams. I really like the creams. This one, they have Peau de Pêche, Peau de Santé, Peau de Rose. This one is Peau de Peony. And I really love this formula. So let me just grab a little of that. I'm just going to take it on the edge of this foundation brush. This one's got a little bit of a pink shift to it. But really beautiful if you never tried these products. I know Peau de Pêche is really popular, but these other colors are nice too. I know they have a new one too that's like a kind of an oyster white one. Okay, so we definitely have a bold look here. Let me grab a lip. I think I'm just going to do a gloss because we got enough going on here. And so I just grabbed one of the new Chanel glosses. This one's in Infinement, which is the purpley gray one. Just kind of a cool lip look to go with the more cooler eyes. This one's got some warmth though. But the boldness, you know, if you're going to go for something this bold on the eyes, you probably want to keep the rest kind of simple. I think this is really beautiful. Like I said, if you're not afraid of color and you love like the really high shine, impactful shadows, then I think you'll really like this. And I cannot rave enough on the foundation. So if you like this kind of content, again, I'd really appreciate it if you like, subscribe, follow along, and shop my links. It costs you nothing, but it helps out the channel. And like I said, we've got Pat McGrath coming. We have Natasha Denona. We have the new Marc Jacobs concealer. We have, God, what else do we have? Chanel, the Coco Mademoiselle collection, and of course the Louis Vuitton Monogram collection. So we have a lot coming up in the next few days, but I hope you've enjoyed today. And if you like a bold look, then hopefully you like these. Bye, everybody.